Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 7.23 Birthday Candle Inferno. We are back. We've come back. We exist again. Hello.
Yes, welcome. This episode's coming out a little bit late today.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Darnell was trying to beat the Stone Skill Troll in Elden Ring and he just couldn't do it.
Okay, first of all, untrue. That guy was easy.
He couldn't.
Second of all,
he was
I recall yesterday.
In the dungeon and it was too hard for him.
I recall yesterday saying, "Tan, do you want to do Aetheral Space?" And you were like, "I don't know. Let's just take it easy." Is that even a boss in Elden Ring?
I don't even think that's what it's fucking called.
Yeah, it's like I think you're talking about the guy from the very beginning in that cave, right? That we needed to use magic on.
Yeah, he was he's the final boss as well.
Oh my god, he just comes back. Damn. Alright, well. That's enough of that. Last time on Aetheral Space, Keiko died, right?
She got fucking stabbed again and again by Carla. And Dragon was about to get stabbed by Mulderseat in the face.
And Rico, lost an arm or some shit.
Yeah, he got fucking whacked off.
Yeah, whacked off, Jesus. Alright, so let's see where things pick up. I'm guessing you weren't Wait, what was his voice? I'm guessing you weren't expecting this from me. Roy Oliphant... Oh, wait, is this Arrogance?
No, it's Roy.
Okay. I'm guessing you weren't expecting this from me. Roy Oliphant Dawkins panted for breath. This whole thing had really been a workout. Arrogance and his new flaming... Am I echoing through you? I can, hear myself on your end.
I can't hear you.
What?
I can't hear you twice, I can hear you, but... I mean, how am I going to... to be honest, how am I going to fucking know if you're echoing, to be honest?
Arrogance, in his new flaming form, had pursued Roy through countless maintenance tunnels, swinging and clawing at him with such speed and ferocity that he could do little else than block or dodge. Opening himself up to attack was out of the question, and yet it was infuriating. Every second he was locked in battle with this creep, he was getting further and further away from the others, from the kids. He couldn't very well protect Scout, Chloe, and Rico from all this if he let himself be led miles away. The most manly thing you could do was to protect your own. His old man had never done that, and Roy had decided years ago that he'd be different. He'd show his kids what a real man looked like, which was how he'd ended up in this situation. In an instant of blinding movement, he'd managed to get himself behind Arrogance and wrap his thick arms around the creature's waist. The enemy writhed and thrashed in his grip, but from this position he could do little more than that. The real issue was the heat. Arrogance's body was wrapped in flames, and as Roy held on, that fire was biting furiously at his arms and chest, even through his aether defenses. How much longer could he hang on like this? A couple of seconds? 30 at the most. The smart thing to do would be to finish his plan now, but he still needed to brave himself for what came next. You might think... Ugh, Roy grunted. This is another maintenance tunnel, but that ain't the case. This is a Nendon gas line I've punched our way into. You know what Nendon gas is, friendo? Roy says friendo?
He just did.
What does Nendon gas do again? I know we've read about it before.
It was back on Talden when you were mining it there. It's fuel, and it's very explosive.
Okay, so it doesn't have any Nendo-like properties.
No.
Arrogance just screeched bestially as it writhed in his vice-like grip. Roy wasn't quite sure whether that was a yes or a no. Well, long story short, it blows up. I was hoping just throwing you in here would be enough to set it off, but it looks like those aren't normal flames you're strutting around in. He grinned. Guess if you want to have something done right, you gotta do it yourself. They were surrounded by a galaxy of bubbles, floating leisurely through the air, each reflecting and refracting the aether light around them like some kind of disparate kaleidoscope. Roy heard the creaking of wood as he squeezed Arrogance's chest tighter and tighter, wincing as the flames licked at his own body. I'm pretty sure we're both covered in my blood at this point, and to be frank, pal, I'm sweating up a storm. We're gonna go up like a birthday cake. I'm pretty sure my aether defenses are good enough to give me a fighting chance here. You, though, I'm not so sure. Anyway, he grinned, preparing to begin his suplex. Let's find out together, okay? Pah! Roy was jolted out of the moment by a familiar cry, coming from the gap he'd opened to enter this gas line. His son was standing there, panting from exertion, aether battery clutched in one of his hands. He was clearly ready to use that ability of his. If they did use it here, though, the building would definitely collapse on top of them after. Their chances of surviving that were lower than their chances of surviving this. With a single glance, Roy gauged distances, calculated odds. Numbers avalanched through his mind, leading to the inexorable conclusion. His original plan was still the best way to go, with the distance he was standing. Scout had a good chance of making it out of this intact. Better than his old man, at least. Roy's grin widened. "This is gonna suck," he declared. And then he hurled arrogance backwards in the suplex of the century. Drogon took what he genuinely thought might be his last breath as Deceit, eyes cold, raised his weapon high. Crimson light gleamed off its pragmatic surface. He could even see his own reflection on it, a corpse ready for the last formality. And then the knife came down, boom, and missed. And the moment before the dagger would have speared right through Drogon's eye socket, the entire building shook, sending Deceit stumbling forward onto the ground. The knife struck the metal floor next to Drogon's head instead, striking up sparks, and in that split second he found himself face to face, barely inches away from the Deceit puppet. He wouldn't get another chance like this. Deceit opened his mouth to speak, to subdue him, but that wasn't going to work from this distance. Drawing upon his last reserves of strength, Drogon lunged forwards, clapping a silencing hand over Deceit's mouth. In the same instant, scraps of electric blue aether began coiling around his body. 2 words were all he needed. "Gemini shotgun," he slurred. At this range, there was no risk of missing. 2 point-blank shots tore right through Deceit's midsection, splitting him in half and sending the 2 sections of his body flying off into the air. Neither of them hit the ground. Instead, they dissipated into orange aether, which surged out of the room through a crack in the ceiling. I have a question.
Yeah.
If Drogon was quick enough, could he have recorded that aether before it went back?
No. That's not like a physical projectile.
Okay, so once it goes back to aether form, you can't record it.
That's aether. You cannot record aether.
Okay. Drogon's mind raced as it recovered from Deceit's onslaught. The aether has to physically go back to Kot when the puppet is destroyed. It's not so fast that you couldn't keep up in a vehicle. Destroy a puppet and follow the aether to find Kot. Need to tell the others about this. Need to get up. Need to fight. Can't. Too hurt. Can't. Still standing over Keiko's body, Karla clicked her tongue as she lifted her gun in Drogon's direction again. Clearly she'd reloaded, and Drogon didn't have it in him to use Gemini World again. Was this it? "Guess you really do have to do everything yourself," she muttered, and the gun spat fire. Thud! But it never reached Drogon's skull. Instead, it struck the shield of rock that had suddenly appeared between Drogon and Karla, formed by the desperate swing of an outstretched arm from the fog. An arm Drogon recognized. Fix! Resentment and relief broiled through him on equal ratios. As Modius Fix charged out of the fog, fist already swinging to demolish Karla Oliphant's skull, missing only by mere inches. In the second she dodged, Karla's eyes flicked between Fix and Drogon, running calculations, deciding her next course of action. This clearly wasn't a fight she could win. Wait, was Fix also the one who shook the ground earlier?
No. What do you mean?
Well, remember, he was about to spear Drogon through the eye, and the ground shook and he missed.
Yeah, because Roy did a big suplex and blew the big boat.
Oh, Soka, I see. Her eyes hardened with just a hint of regret, and Drogon recognized the intent to retreat in that gaze. As she landed back on the ground, Karla whipped her hand out of her coat and pulled free a compact grenade, flicking the trigger and hurling it towards Drogon with all the technique of a farball player. He couldn't dodge, he couldn't fight back, he couldn't... Another wave of that massive arm, and the grenade was encased in a sphere of stone. A second later, Drogon found himself caught in a massive bear hug, Fix angling his body to shield Drogon from the incoming explosion. He felt Fix's breath tense just slightly as the seconds passed, but that was all. The anticipation of pain, but not death. Bang! The explosion was smothered somewhat by the rocky shell, but the shrapnel that burst out was still deadly. Some of the shards of stone bounced off of Fix's surging aether defenses, but others stabbed into his back like knives, less vital areas that weren't as much a priority for shielding. The second the onslaught was over... Oh, that's interesting. Does everyone do that, or just Fix because he's clever? Like, instead of an overall aether shield, just focusing on the important parts?
You can, like, pinpoint it. Like, Helga did it as well, but she was more offense-focused.
Gotcha. The second the onslaught was over, Fix whirled around, pulling a hefty plasma pistol out of his coat and pointing it forward. He had no target. As silently as a shadow, Karla Oliphant was gone. All that remained was Keiko, lying still on the floor. Drogon winced as he slowly picked himself up off the floor, looking down for the first time at the dagger lodged in his arm. He'd been feeling pain from so many sources that he hadn't had time to really concentrate on any specific wound. Guess he'd be going back to the hospital before long. "How'd you know I was here?" Drogon grumbled, glancing at Fix. As Fix pulled the stone shards out of his body without so much as a gasp of pain, Drogon spied the dried blood on his knuckles. Well, that explained that. "These assassins pass information among themselves,"
Smooth
Fix
skin.
replied. Okay, what do you want me to do for
I just love it.
You freaking smooth skin. Vix replied, dropping the bloody rocks to the floor in a neat pile. I had one of them tell me, are you alright? You know who I like doing voices for? My niece, because she always thinks I do them perfectly. Like I did my...
She's like, smooth skin.
I do like that. I was voicing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon for her because I was showing her the game and playing with her, and her partner's a Meowth, so I was doing the Meowth from the anime. And obviously my impression's not very good, but she was like, "You sound just like him," and I was like, "Haha, yeah, amazing." See, that's the audience I need. I had one of them tell me, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Dragon snapped, looking away from him. More.
Oh yeah,
wait.
There's a quotation mark.
Okay, I was confused. More importantly, Mr. Dragon! With the smog finally clearing, it couldn't have been sticking around naturally for this long. Surely. It was easy to see Serena leaping up from below, pulling herself onto the elevated section, using a pair of curved swords like climbing picks. She'd clearly had a tough time of it, too. Her hair disheveled beyond belief, a nasty cut running along her stomach. Violet aether still crackled around her battered hands. Vix raised an eyebrow at her as she strode past. You guys okay? Dragon asked, leaning against a wall to catch his breath. Are any of them still around? Serena shook her head. Monophobia can make a lot of different puppets, but most of them are really weak. They're only a problem because there's so many. You say that, but every puppet is like in a one-on-one fight.
Yeah, and they're all already dead.
Yeah, that's true. Dragon nodded. Power in numbers. Where's Ruth? With a frown, Serena cast her sad face down to the ground. Rico got hurt. One of his cousins, too, but Rico really bad. She went to take them both somewhere safe. It was Dragon's turn to frown. What? We're splitting up again? After what happened last time? And the time before that? A meek shrug. I guess. He could already see history repeating itself. Ruth getting attacked by some random freak, them going after her, and the whole situation exploding into yet another clash. From what Dragon understood, Kot could just keep endlessly sending aspects of himself after them from wherever he was hiding out. That meant they weren't safe so long as he was alive. The only one that decides what happens to me is me. Fuck that, Dragon sighed. I'll give her a call and we're going after her. From now on, we stick together no matter what. Skipper should still be at the hospital, so we'll group up there. Vix cleared his throat from behind him. Are you sure it's wise to keep moving around in your current condition? You hardly got out of this encounter unscathed. That's true, he only got away not from one, but 2 Deus Ex Machinas. Ah, shit. Dragon had been so happy forgetting that Vix was here for just a few seconds. He turned back to the larger man, a scowl on his lips. If I'm hurt, the best place for me to go is the hospital anyway. Vix closed his eyes, nodding slowly as he acquiesced, as if it was any of his business what Dragon did. Very well. I'll keep you safe as we travel. Do whatever you want, Dragon snorted dismissively, turning back to Serena. Anyway, we can't just stand here talking about it. We'll grab whoever's still here and... You... The voice was weak, raspy, on the very edge of non-existence, but it spoke all the same. From the floor, the girl named Keiko looked up, wavering eyes fixed on Serena. Blood poured liberally from her mouth and stomach wound. Shit! She was still alive? Dragon had been sure she was dead after the evisceration Carlet committed. He ran over and went to cover her wound, only for Vix to beat him to it, forming a bandage of smooth stone with a wave of his hand. These wounds are lethal, Keiko, Vix declared coldly, looking down at the girl. He knew her as well, then, having worked for the family. This is for dignity alone. Keiko ignored them, continuing to stare at Serena. You... Serena blinked, looking down at the girl who'd been her companion for barely an hour. The person who hated Kot just as much as she did. And here she was, bleeding out on the floor. Serena had been so fixed on Dragon that she hadn't even noticed. How could she not notice? She kneeled down next to the dying woman. What is it? She asked quietly. Keiko slowly blinked, her gaze returning to the ceiling. It was Carla, she muttered, her lips deathly pale. It was Aunt Carla. It was her. I don't know who that is. Doesn't matter. I trusted her. Stupid. Shouldn't have trusted. Need to tell you something. Serena bit her lip anxiously. In this moment, why was Keiko Oliphant Hidaka directing her last words to her? They'd known each other for so little time. What? She asked. Kot. Weakness. It must be, I think. He has a weakness. Serena perked up at that, and the fire inside her stoked up once again, but now with an undeniable structure to it, a path for it to follow. Her sword would come down, sure, but it wouldn't strike randomly any more. What is it? She hissed, insistent. Keiko coughed violently, blood trickling from the edge of her lips. She spoke quickly in bursts, as if afraid she wouldn't be able to get all the information out in time. There's a coffin. He takes it everywhere. Best security he can buy. There's something in it, something he's scared of. You can tell on his face. Do you know it? Serena slowly shook her head. Coffin? That didn't ring a bell at all. Cod had never had anything like that the entire time Jakob had known him. It's his weakness, Keiko repeated, nodding faintly to herself. It is, it has to be. He never goes far. Find it and you find Cod. Open it and you beat Cod. A sudden, faded expression of terror came to her face, and she stared pleadingly into Serena's eyes. You'll kill him, right? You will kill him? Serena gulped, nodding. She didn't know how she'd do it, but she knew breaking a promise was the worst thing a person could do. She'd hold herself to account. I will. The slightest blood-stained smile spread across Keiko's lips, and she slowly closed her eyes. A second later, all expression slackened away. Oh, she whimpered, lips barely moving. I want to go home. Those were her last words. After staring at her body for a good long while, turning the information over in her head, Serena stood up. Her fists were balled tight at her sides. Her eyes were resolute. Coffin, she said to herself. I'll get it, no matter what. With that promise made, she turned her gaze back to Dragon, who was still looking down at Keiko's body with an unreadable expression. How do we start, Mr. Dragon? He looked back up at her, blinking. Carla wanted everyone here dead, and she told the Cod aspect to gather all the bodies to show to Abraham Oliphant. That means he's still on his way. Serena cocked her head. So? Dragon gave her a serious look. If he's coming here, then she'll be coming after him, and Cod'll be with her. He clenched his own fist. And that's when we finish them both, he declared. Ooh. How's Rico gonna feel about that?
I don't know. He's not here, but how will he feel?
Damn. Alright, well, good chapter. Keiko had a lot of words to say, but I also am curious to see what's inside the coffin. I was theorizing, I don't know if you noticed in the chat, about what could be in there. I have a theory that it's like his last resort, like monophobia personality, and it's really powerful, but it hates him, so he keeps it in there. So like you unleash it, and they're gonna have to fight it, but then when they get it to like calm down, it's gonna beat the fuck out of Cod. That's my guess. And I think it's a trait like compassion or love, and it's angry at Cod because all the shit Cod does, and it also explains why Cod is so ruthless, you know? Because we haven't seen, like, I think the most positive aspect of his we've seen has been caution, right?
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
So that's why I think, that's my theory, is that it's like love or compassion or something that's supposed to be an innate goodness and it's like disgusted with its creator. That's my theory. Thoughts on that, creator?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Well, you guys tell me what you think's in the coffin, and we'll find out hopefully soon. See you guys around. Bye!
Bye.